Hey, I'm Nina Las Vegas and welcome to my studio bounce. I am a DJ and producer from Sydney, although I was born in Wagga Wagga. I run a record label called NLV Records and I was a radio gal for Triple J years ago. Right now I am focusing on music and putting out other people's music and being behind the scenes. I got into producing when I was actually quite young. At university I did Pro Tools and radio production, and then when I entered the world of radio they discovered that I could work on Pro Tools, and as I guess like a young 18-year-old girl, it was kind of rare, so I got lots of work straight away. I edited promos and interviews. I made like IDs for the station, which was kind of wild, and then I taught myself Ableton and also with Live School in Australia, shout out those guys, and I started mixing radio programs, making edits, being a more active DJ, and always being on Ableton. I don't even know how to use Pro Tools anymore, but I definitely spend a lot of time on Ableton now, and that's how I got into it. I started moving more into like creating music from working in production, if that makes sense, when I gave myself the time. So I was actively always wanting to do more. However, I had a full-time job in radio, so that's why I didn't start really actively pursuing producing until I cut back on that, which kind of sucks because I'd like to do everything, but you can't. So at the last 3 years, I've been more producing and running the label and touring and allowing myself that, because I'm not putting together weekly segments and radio shows and stuff like that. I'm also trying to skill myself more, work with audio, work with vocals, and I think though, having said that, I am really lucky to have that experience of making promos, because now I can record things really well. I can hear some really literal pops and EQs and all that kind of stuff that was hammered into me when I first started producing. I feel like I can do vocals pretty good now because I spent so many times directing people on how to project. The music I make, I think lately has been more club focused, although it's kind of still fruity and girly. I like that I can play my songs in my sets, although every now and then I toy with my voice or something slower and just, add some sonic club elements into my music. But generally my record label, NLV Records, is club orientated. My studio must-have is always liquids. I like any type of drink. I know that sounds dumb, but if there's a chocolate milk next to me, I will work all day. I love a coffee, I love a water, I sound so dorky, but if you have an array of drinks, you never seem to go anywhere. In terms of my home studio, me and Twig share one, but we just packed up my one, which is kind of sad. However, when we do get our own place again, we'll build it again, and it's got to have, plants, a sofa. There's a lolly jar in our studio at home, lots of Prince posters, lots of, what was in our Sydney studio? Oh, lots of Prince. There was like a Prince shrine, and that's very much Swick. And then for me, I guess just our gear, as well as keeping it pretty simple and homely, and it's got to have a nice energy. Equipment wise, I'm pretty much solo on my computer. I use an Apogee Duet when I travel, although it kind of sucks, sorry Apogee. And I like an OP1. We use Microcorg a fair bit. Swick uses a whole bunch of other stuff like Mono Machine and stuff like that, but I'm very much sample based and audio because I'm too impatient. I don't sit and make noises all day. I find a noise and I make it work. Okay, so the song I'm going to break down today is from my EP, Lucky Girl. It was the fourth song that came together. It started as, I guess, a little melody that I found in a session I had with Nina Geraci. We'd been working on a song together, and then I kept trying to fix that song and then created this one. It's always the way, you always pull one part. And then, yeah, it's kind of influenced by Bali rhythms and regional sounds. There's plenty of samples, there's plenty of my voice. I think it's one of the more complex, prettiest tracks on my EP. So this is a drop. Now you can hear so much in that, from chords to a bass line to drums and to heaps of vocal samples, which is how I started this track. So I'll go back to that. I met a DJ called Shintaro in Poland at the start of the year at Red Bull 3 Style. championships, and we were making a beat together for a project we had to do as part of the conference, and we kept playing with our voices and ballet funk rhythms. Yes, so we would record directly, like, you know, set up the computer and go straight into the microphones. And we would record straight in, no gear. And this is what we came up with. And as I said, I was working with this Nina Geraci sample that she'd given me permission to play with. And what I just do in a really simple way is I would just pitch everything, because it was audio. I didn't know exactly what chords were being used. I think it was a sample from her anyway. And I just make sure that every part was tuned together. The Shintaro rhythm with me, as beautiful as it is, didn't quite work. So I then, to be a bit more inspired, just pulled in a ballet beat. Now, on top of that, I knew that wouldn't always be the case using that beat. I didn't want to totally appropriate it. I just wanted to start something. Sometimes I just pull in samples to start an idea, and everyone does that. Another big element of this track was this other vocal that I'd done and manipulated multiple times to sound, I guess, kind of like a flute, and you can hear it here. It's kind of crazy how you can just like chuck heaps of audio in together with a pitch on it. It's such a simple little task, but it's so much fun because then the possibilities are endless. I felt like I needed more. And you can hear that. So again, on my own terms, I pulled out my microphone and just recorded in, like, on top of this. I could hear more, so it was just like, ooh ah, ooh ah, ooh ah. And as beautiful as it sounds now, it did not sound like that. And you can hear in the takes, it was really dry, really crappy. Ooh ah. And you can hear how tinny it is because I did not set up the studio for this. Ooh ah, ooh ah, ooh ah. I can even hear a car. Ooh ah. So I would just always warp it, bounce it out. I freeze tracks all the time. It's so much easier now to just freeze everything and then just start a new rhythm from those sounds. Now, when I make music, I very much collaborate. I sometimes find being in a studio by myself quite daunting. I constantly need reassurance or encouragement or ideas, and I think I'm proud of that. And I think that if more people were okay with collaborating and sharing ideas, we'd have more people making music, potentially more women, because everyone does it. And if you're in a band, you wouldn't be expected to write the drum part as well as the vocal, unless you're like Kevin Parker from Tame Impala. Like, you would not be expected to do everything. So with this song, I had Swick, again, who I work with all the time, help me get to the next phase. So he heard it, he heard my vocal sample, he liked the chords, he liked all the parts I'd put together, but then just suggested I obviously take the ballet rhythm out, because I don't want to be a white girl from Australia making ballet funk. And he moved the lead to the drop. And you can hear it now in the drop. And then you can hear how the melody is now switched. So it felt much more original now with his help, and then he sent it back to me. He made me want to work on it more, because now I could hear it become something else and actually a track. I always just thought it was a rhythm. I always just thought it was going to be an instrumental, potentially with a vocal, and now I kind of didn't want anything else. Okay, so the final part of the track was I needed a tiny bit more originality and, I guess, energy, live energy. My vocals were also auto-tuned and trashy. I got Miss Blanks, who is a rapper in Australia, a very cool one, to do some vocal samples, and I added that over the drop because I just felt it needed a tiny bit more human elements. And again, I've done the same thing where simple recording. This was with a handheld mic, pitching shit up, and also, like, I always use warp to make the effect, and you can hear how it sounds now. I guess that's a very brief insight into how I made my collection of noises from my mouth and my crappy mic on the computer a song, and also how I worked with a whole bunch of people, Swick, Nina Geraci, Miss Blanks, to make something I think is very cool, and I'm still very proud of it. I'm in Las Vegas. You should keep an eye out for my releases, past, present and future, and NLV Records is where you can find them. So thank you. This has been Studio Bounce.